topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Draw me close to you, never let me go, and lay it all down again, to hear you say that I'm a friend.
Okay. The Almighty Creator desires a deep personal relationship with you. My name is James Robertson. I'm a researcher, publisher, and teacher regarding the matters and truths of the Almighty Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existing. I've been actively serving him since 1993, over 32 years. If you're not actively serving Yah, then by default you're serving Satan, and my objective is to show you how you can make a big difference on earth and qualify for a position of high esteem in heaven for eternity. It's important to understand that as a believer, just being good is not the point. It's relationship with Yah that counts. Without this, you will be in a very unpleasant place in heaven with no way out, and my aim is to show you how to get close to Father. If you're a good person without a clear relationship with Yah, then you're in a spiritual no man's land and you will not enter heaven when you die. The Creator has said regarding unbelievers, why would I want someone to spend eternity with me when they do not believe I exist? Yah is calling everybody on the planet to be involved and serve him and help him to have victory over Satan. Fundamentally, we each need to learn to see things on earth from Yah's perspective. Please visit my website at www.endtimeissueministries.org or email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org. Our topic today is the Torah Dilemma. What exactly is Torah? The overview. Over a number of years, I've had contact with various Messianic people who see themselves as Torah Observant and who correctly see Yahooshua, incorrectly Jesus, as Messiah, the Anointed One who was to come. The question that arises is whether Torah observance, as in a formal study of text and observance of text, is relevant in this age. In saying this, while I've read the so-called Old Testament from Bereshith, incorrectly Genesis, to Malaki, incorrectly Malachi, over 20 times since I came to serve Father Yah intensely, Father has never impressed on me that I should become observant of some of those books at an intellectual works level. This broadcast explores the question, what exactly is Torah, and reaches a controversial conclusion. We will also review your relationship with the Creator. So this broadcast is based on the article 2024-1204, The Torah Dilemma. What exactly is Torah? As I said, I've come into contact with quite a few people who are Torah observant, but the problem is there are different opinions as to what the word Torah in the Hebrew means, and the word law, which is commonly the English translation of the word Torah, but which refers to a number of other concepts of law as well. To illuminate my comments, in 2001, Yah clearly stated to me that the Bible was not his word. It contains errors and is only about 2.5% inspired. So building too much on the Bible, whether it's the first 5 books of the Bible or the entire Bible, versus being led by the Spirit, is problematic. So the point here, folks, there are a couple of points. The One is the Bible is a useful reference book. The books that were recorded before the exile of the Israelites to Babylon were not necessarily fully preserved in the exodus that took place. Get the picture. The Babylonians have overrun Jerusalem. They take the inhabitants captive and they force march them some considerable distance to Babylon. The so-called Torah was in so-called Torah scrolls, big bulky things. It is improbable that those scrolls were carried by any individual to Babylon. Maybe they were, but my understanding is that different people took fragments and they reconstituted the older books of the so-called Old Testament in Babylon, partly from memory and partly from assembling fragments. And if you read carefully, most of the books are fragmentary. There are chunks of text, and then there's a logical non-conformity between that and the next text. It's not one contiguous flow of writings, even within individual books. An important realization that is necessary for this discussion is that the Old Covenant was fulfilled through the offering of Yahooshua. So in considering this topic, it's vital to understand that Yahooshua fundamentally changed the situation regarding Torah. So if we look in Matthew, incorrectly Matthew, chapter 27, verses 45 to 53. And now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour, there was darkness over all the land. This is now just before Yahooshua dies on the stake, not a cross, on the stake. So he's hanging there, desperately trying to breathe in agony. And about the 9th hour, Yahooshua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my beloved mighty one, why have you forsaken me? Now, the conventional English is, my beloved, my God, why have you forsaken me? But he actually said Eli. And if we read on, some of those who stood there when they heard that said, this man is calling for Elijah, incorrectly Elijah. Immediately, and Eli Yah means Yah is my beloved mighty one. Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed and offered it to him to drink. The rest said, let him alone, let us see if Elijah will come to save him. And Yahooshua cried out again and with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. And then behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked and the rocks were split. And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. Coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the set-apart city and appeared to many. This is confirmed in Mark 15:33. So there are a number of key points here. So first of all, I'd like to refer you, there's an article on the website, The Miraculous Planning of the Death of Yahooshua, where, how, and when, and I taught on it on this channel a few months ago for an elaboration of many of these points. The rocks were rent. There was an earthquake, and the earthquake cracked through the foot of the stake hole where Yeshua was hanging, down to the Ark of the Covenant, which had been hidden there by Jeremiah, at the time of the Babylonian exile in 586 BC. And Yeshua's blood ran onto the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant and introduced a new covenant, a new offering for the forgiveness of sin. and the ordination of a new high priest. Now, the fact that the Ark of the Covenant was there was only discovered by Ron Wyatt in 1982. So at the time that Yahooshua died, nobody understood that this has happened. And it's very significant because it means that Yahooshua became a new high priest, new offering for sin, new covenant through the blood falling on the mercy seat, fulfilling the terms of the covenant of Moshe, Moses, the so-called Old Covenant, Old Testament. It's not a testament, folks. It's not a will. It's a covenant. And then the veil of the temple was torn from top to bottom, thereby revealing that the most set-apart place, the Holy of Holies, was empty, and the Ark of the Covenant was not there. So the high priest was a fraud, and the offering for atonement of sin was invalid. It's important to note that it was torn from top to bottom, showing it was not done by human beings. Thus Yah opened the way to relationship with him to all believers. This is vital to understand in the context of the discussion of Torah. So a couple of pieces here, folks. What we learn with Wyatt's discovery of the Ark of the Covenant in the cave under the execution site is that from 586 BC, there could not be a legitimate high priest, and there could not be a legitimate offering for atonement on the Day of Atonement, because the Ark of the Covenant is gone, and both of those things required the sprinkling of the blood of a lamb or goat without spot or blemish to be the blood to be sprinkled on the mercy seat. Couldn't be done. Ark's gone. Go into exile. So really what we find is that because of the rebellion and the disobedience of Israel, the people of Israel, which led to them being taken captive to Babylon, they reached a point then where the high priest was illegitimate. It was a ritual, but it had no substance in terms of the covenant of Moshe, Moses, and that when they did the offering for atonement on the Day of Atonement, it was also meaningless because there was no Ark of the Covenant. So for 586 years, plus another 33 and a half, till Yahooshua died, there was no legitimate high priest, and the high priest who called for Yeshua's death was not legitimate. And then the curtain was torn, which meant that anybody could walk into the Holy of Holies where the Ark of the Covenant was supposed to be. And this is really important, folks. It's important to understand that, number one, the barrier, the artificial restriction on human beings having a close relationship with Yah was taken away. The priesthood was shown to be illegitimate. And folks, you need to see that in the light that what you read in the Bible up till then, certain of those things ceased to be valid. And coming back to the passage that I read a couple of minutes ago about Yeshua's death and giving up the Spirit, I've spoken about this on several occasions, but it bears repeating. It is vital to understand that the set-apart Spirit of Yah came upon Yeshua when he was immersed by Yahushua, John, the immerser, John the Baptist, in the Jordan. It was the Spirit of Yah on Yeshua that enabled him to perform miracles, heal the sick, raise the dead, walk on water, feed 5,000, etc. And then when he died, Yah had to take his spirit off Yeshua because he was so anointed, otherwise he would never have died. The fact that Yeshua claims out, why have you forsaken me? Why have you left me? He wasn't expecting that. Yah didn't tell him that that was going to happen. Suddenly he loses that anointing. He loses that close relationship with Father, and then his heart is broken and he dies. There is absolutely no way that Yeshua is Yah. There's no way that Jesus is God. I really ask you to get that, folks. Then also note that the 2 tablets of stone with the 10 words, the 10 commandments, were in the Ark of the Covenant, which had been missing from the time of Yirmiyahu. This thereby opened the way for Yah to write the commandments on the hearts of believers. This passage is profoundly important to this discussion regarding the meaning of Torah and the relevance of Torah observance in the current age. And then to loop back to what I touched on a couple of minutes ago, it is vital to recognize that the people who called for the death of Yahooshua were what we would today call Torah keepers. They regarded the 5 books at the start of the Bible, the so-called 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, as sacrosanct, authoritative, and the basis for one's relationship with Yah. And because Yahooshua, who was sent by Yah, filled with the Spirit of Yah, did not accord with their narrow view of what he should be, they had him killed. So in considering the life and death of Yahooshua, it is also vital to understand that the people who called for the death of Yahooshua misinterpreted the Torah as they had it, such that those who were strictly Torah observant were responsible for the death of Yahooshua, thereby terminating the terms of the covenant through Moshe and opening the way for the new covenant through Yahooshua. Thus, Yah rejected Torah observance in the strict intellectual sense when Yahooshua died. The chosen people stopped being chosen. They killed the Anointed One who was to come, the Messiah, who was the fulfillment of the covenant of Moshe. So, folks, if you are somebody who claims to be a Torah keeper, you need to check out that you are in fact transposing yourself prior to the death and resurrection of Yahooshua and trying to keep a law or a book of laws which the people failed to keep to such an extent that they killed the Anointed One, the Messiah. And so at that point, Yah said, I'm tearing the curtain open. I'm taking away the barrier. I'm allowing anybody who has belief in me through the covenant of Yeshua to come close to me. So my message to you today, in part, is that you can get as close to Yah as you choose, and you are the only constraint on that. Your mindset, your mental position is the only thing that is keeping you from getting really close to Yah and spending eternity on a very high throne. Coming back to Torah observance, most of those who practice Torah observance today subscribe to the view that the Torah relates to the 5 so-called books of Moshe, the books of Moses: Bereshith, incorrectly Genesis; Shemoth, incorrectly Exodus; Vayikra, incorrectly Leviticus, Bamidbar, incorrectly Numbers, and Deborim, incorrectly Deuteronomy, which I will henceforth refer to as the 5 books. Some of these people believe that the 5 books were all written by Moses, before he died, including the portion at the end of Deborim, which describes the death of Moshe and what happened immediately after. Note that the above does not mean that I'm saying that people should not read the 5 books or the Bible diligently a few times and take notes and ask questions. I am saying that deep intellectual study of the 5 books or the Bible as a whole is not appropriate, and in fact, I'm saying it's damaging. You need to have a spirit-to-spirit relationship with Yah, and intellectually engaging with the Bible is not helpful. Particularly memorizing the 5 books of the Bible, which some people do, or any other book, including the Quran, it's off the mark. Yah does not want a relationship with your head. He wants a relationship with your heart, with you, your innermost being, your spirit. He's not interested in a whole lot of laws, a whole lot of intellectual stuff. So let's talk about the 613 mitzvot, which you may or may not have come across. Some of the people mentioned above, the most strictly Torah observant, also observe the 613 mitzvot. The 613 laws deduced from the 5 books by rabbis and taught as a strict basis for getting into right standing with Yah. You can search on the internet for the 613 mitzvot. That's MITZVOT. It will be apparent that such a large number of rules requires substantial intellectual effort in order to engage, understand, and apply, with the consequence that those who take on this discipline are likely to be intellectually engaged with the book and not in tune with Yah's spirit. Folks, I had largely an intellectual revelation of Yah and the Bible, etc., when I was young. I didn't have any deep spiritual experience. In 1993, 12th of March, when Yah spoke to me audibly, I instantly realized that my intellect had led me down the wrong path and got me into a lot of trouble. So in a way that I can't fully explain, I walked with Yah from then on a spiritual basis. I constantly asked him questions about the Bible. I took copious notes. I got copious revelation. And I kept walking with him in the Spirit. And I encourage you that if you are in the place of memorizing bits of the Bible or the 5 books or whatever, or the Quran or whatever, stop. Seek a deep personal relationship with your Father in heaven. So coming back to this thing about the 613 mitzvot, this is what Yeshua was referring to in Matthew 23:4, speaking of the Torah observant leaders, scribes, etc. For they bind heavy burdens, hard to bear, and lay them on men's shoulders. That's the 613 mitzvot and some of the other stuff. But they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. In my over 32 years, as of May 2025, of being led by the Spirit of Yah, Yah has strenuously kept me from having anything to do with the 613 mitzvot, bar being aware of their existence. He won't even let me read them. And you can get offended by that and say, oh my goodness, well, this guy Robertson, seriously off the mark. That's something between you and Father. I'm very confident that what I've said is valid. I've been saying this for many years. I've been praying regularly. Show me the level of my present deception and how to correct it. Judge me severely and correct me harshly, that I may serve you more perfectly. And I have to tell you that Yah has never once said to me, James, you're out of line. You need to study the 613 mitzvot. He also kept me from going to Bible school, by the way. Because he hates the Bible, because people worship the Bible instead of having a relationship with him. In considering what follows, keep in mind Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you've rejected knowledge, I also will reject you from being priest for me. Because you have forgotten Torah, the law of your mighty one God, I will also forget your children. This paves the way for the coming of Yahooshua and the new covenant. Those who champion Torah observance may take this as an injunction to study more deeply, where in fact it is challenging people to return to deep knowledge and experience of the Almighty Himself. Folks, I teach regularly on this basically, but a critical examination of everything around you, from the universe to the solar system, to the sun, to the moon, planet Earth, plants, the animals, us, reveals huge complexity, enormous creativity, great discipline, and there's only one reason why Father went to all that trouble. Because he was lonely and he wanted friends. He didn't want you to have a relationship with the Bible. He didn't want you to have a relationship with your pastor or whoever or whatever. He didn't want you to go to Bible school and worship the Bible. He wanted you to have a deep personal relationship with him, to talk to him all the time, hear him all the time, engage with him all the time, have him involved with your life. So how does studying of the order of, 120 pages of writing correlate with having a deep relationship with Father? I read someone the other day saying that you have to keep Torah in order to be pure, to have a relationship with Father. I don't think so. You need to have a relationship with Father and then you'll get pure. So an important point which builds on what I just said. Yah is lonely and he's making adjustments. Notice also that in a historical context, Yah is lonely and working with what he has to work with regarding human beings, which have been increasingly weak and pathetic. The people today are far weaker spiritually than they were 3,600 years ago at the time of Moshe. As a consequence, Yah has had to substantially and progressively redefine how he works with human beings. These adjustments continue to today. In considering the question of Torah in the present age, it is important to evaluate exactly what is applicable today. So what we see is at the time of Moshe, Moses, when Yah entered into that covenant through Moshe, and they put the blood on the doorposts and the lintels, and they came out of Egypt and everything, and Yah came down on the mountain and gave the 10 commandments, etc. And designated the priests and the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant and everything. As I said a few minutes ago, it did not work. Please understand this, folks. Going back 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years for a formula for living your life today is not wise, because things have changed. Yah is looking for friends. And then Torah in hearts. Doing this, note that Hebrews 10:16 states, "This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, says Yah, the eternally self-existing, incorrectly the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds I will write them." And so in the context of this broadcast, the question arises, which laws are being referred to? As I said, it's a body of opinion which says the 5 books must be fully and completely understood, and we will read from them every week, and we will study them every week, year after year after year after year after year after year. And somehow by doing that, it will be pleasing to Yah, and he will reward us when we come before the judgment seat. Just stop and think about what I've just said, because I want to suggest to you that it doesn't make sense. Here we are, Yah went to all this trouble to create us to be friends, and now he's going to judge us on the basis of our in-depth knowledge of 5 books. So I don't think this is the law, the Torah, that's going to be written on our hearts or is written on our hearts. It turns out that Hebrews 10:16 is quoting Yirmiyahu, incorrectly Jeremiah 31:33. But this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yah, the eternally self-existing, the Lord. I will put my law in their minds and ascribe it on their hearts, and I will be their mighty one, incorrectly God, and they will be my people. To a point, this also references Ezekiel 36:26-27. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove your heart of stone, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes and to carefully observe my ordinances. So, do you mean to tell me that Yah has taken 5 books written by human beings, which he says are largely not inspired, and put that in our minds and in our hearts? Please think about it. It's kind of overwhelming. I've read those books many times. I know roughly what's in them, and I can pretty much find whatever I need to find in them, even though it's 24 years since I last read the Bible. Because 24 years ago, Father, after having read the Bible 20 times Old Testament, 35 times New Testament, Father said to me, it's not my word, it's only 2.5% inspired, and I hate it. Bawam. Then Abraham and Torah, Genesis 26:5. Because that Abraham hath hearkened to my voice and keepeth my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah, in most English translations, laws. Clearly, there's much in addition to the Torah in the way of Yah's charge, Yah's commandments, and Yah's statutes, in addition to Yah's Torah. So the Torah itself is apparently quite narrowly defined. Note also that Abram had the Torah over 500 years before Moshe, so the Torah is clearly not the 5 books, which almost entirely deal with the situation after Abraham. Folks, this is important. The reason I'm doing this teaching is because I fairly regularly encounter people who tell me that they're Torah observant. And my response to that is what I'm giving you in the article that this is based on, and what I'm giving you now in more detailed discussion. What is Torah? That's the dilemma. Because some people say it's the whole Bible, but they're not specific about whether it's the Protestant 66 books or the Catholic whatever books, or the Ethiopian whatever books, or the Church of the East whatever books, or the Greek Orthodox whatever books, or the Russian Orthodox whatever books. There's some commonality, but there's something like 16 extra books in the Ethiopian canon, and there's about 9 in the extra in the Catholic canon. Silly. So what is Torah? Examining Yirmiyahu 31 to 33 in the Interlinear Bible, we find that the word translated law is Strong's number 8451, Torah. So Hebrews 10:16 states, "This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, says Yah, the eternally self-existing. I will put my Torah into their hearts, and their minds I will write them." So Hebrews 10:16 is referring to Torah. This highlights the question of what is the Torah, the law, being referred to here. Strong's Lexicon, cited in Appendix A to the article on which this broadcast is based, elaborates, and Appendix B lists a few verses where Torah occurs. If you study it out, just search the word law in the Bible. One of the big weaknesses of just about every English Bible translation, and as a consequence, any translation which is based on the English translation, which is a hang of a lot of other languages that have been informed at least by the English translation. Law has got multiple meanings. It can refer to the 10 Commandments. It can refer to the 5 books. It can refer to the Bible. It can refer to human laws, the laws of the state. And it can relate to spiritual, physical laws. So you have the laws of physics, E equals mc squared, F equals ma, etc. Force equals mass times acceleration. Those are spiritual laws. They're also laws, but they're not Torah. From this, we see a strong emphasis on the Torah being the 5 books as defined above, but we also see an alternative interpretation that the Torah comprises the entire body of Jewish teaching, and others say it includes all of the Old Testament, as I've said. Others say Torah encompasses the entire Christian Bible without specifying which Bible version they're referring to. The Standard Protestant with 66 books, the Catholic with Apocrypha, the Ethiopian with 88 books. There's a collection of Apocrypha of 54 books. And the question is, folks, are you going to allow your relationship with the Creator to be dictated by any book whatsoever, no matter what human beings say about it? Because remember that there is nothing in the Bible, in any of the translations that I've read, which has a declaration at the beginning which says, "We the undersigned," or "I the undersigned, name, date, place, hereby testify and declare before the Almighty that this book is 100% inspired by Yah, and that I have translated it without error, and it is completely dependable." I've never seen that in any Bible. I haven't even seen that in one book in the Bible. Nowhere does the Bible claim to be the Word of God. It's a human invention. Dare I say it, inspired by Satan. So I want to suggest for your consideration that Torah is at best a subset of the 5 books. Insofar as most of the Bible, including the 5 books, is simply history, and Yah has said that the Bible is not my word and contains errors and is only about 2.5% inspired, I submit that Torah is at best a subset of the 5 books and certainly not a superset. I want to make a clear distinction between codified law, so-called Torah, and jurisprudence, the theory of law or the philosophy of law. It's my contention that over and above the large portion of the 5 books that is straightforward history, a significant further part of the 5 books is jurisprudence, as defined above, and not codified law. So what am I doing, folks? I'm just doing a reality check and saying, if I look critically at the 5 books, most of those 5 books is simple historical account, starting with creation, through the flood, through Abram, through Moshe, the exodus from Egypt, occupying the Promised Land happens after the 5 books. The 5 books take us up to the point where Moshe dies and a little bit beyond that. I don't know what the figure is. I haven't calculated, but I'm guessing that 90+% of those 5 books is just straightforward history. And then there's a whole lot of other stuff about the design of the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant, etc., and the rituals that go with it, which we've seen have been fulfilled by Yeshua and have been superseded. So there's not a lot left, actually, if you're sober and sensible about it. So, folks, I'm out of time today. I'm going to pick this up again next week, and I hope it's given you something to think about. So I would like to ask you, what is the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator today? I'd like you to critically examine where you are relative to Him. Do you talk to Him constantly throughout the day and allow Him to lead you in every possible way? Do you worship Him at every opportunity? Have you clearly and unambiguously heard Him call you friend? If not, you're failing in your life purpose and you will be bitterly disappointed when you die. If you've now come to belief, please pray along the following lines. Father Yah, I come to you in the name of Yahooshua. I now believe that you exist. I confess my sin of unbelief and I repent of my unbelief and I ask you to forgive my sin. I now commit my life to you and I ask you to take me by the hand and lead me into deep personal relationship with you. I ask you to fill me with your spirit and to change me and help me to become the person you want me to become. I ask you to help me find people who can help me and help me find books, websites, articles, and other resources that will help me. I ask you to show me what I can do to actively serve you and lead others to deep personal relationship with you. I thank you for saving me. There's a period of 8 days from sincerely coming to belief for the first time, during which there is extreme grace to help you. See the article Critical Actions on First Belief for actions you should take immediately. Drop me an email at james@endtimeissueministries.org so I can help you, pray with you, counsel you, etc. In closing, thank you for listening. Please send me your questions to james@endtimeissueministries.org and email me to join the mailing list, also at james@endtimeissueministries.org. If you decide to draw close to the Almighty, please let me know and I can connect with you by Zoom, Teams, email, LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp, or telephone so that I can help you with your journey. I hope to connect with you again next week when I will continue to explore how to become a friend of the Creator. Work with me to make a way for Yahooshua to return in victory at the end of the millennium and make his enemies his footstool. Folks, those of you who've been with me for a few weeks, I'm guessing you're going to drop off now because you've heard what I'm going to say next. For those of you who are new or only been on for a couple of weeks, please stay behind. There's just a few things I want to share with you. In closing, I want to remind you Yah wants you to become his friend. It doesn't matter whether you are black, white, or anything else. It doesn't matter whether you're African, Asian, Indian, American, European, Caucasian, whatever. It doesn't matter whether you're a Satanist. He will meet you wherever you are. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. It doesn't matter whether you're tall or short, thin or fat, blonde hair, blue eyes, brown hair, brown eyes, black hair, anything. It's open to you. Whoever you are, wherever you are, wherever you find yourself in your life status, he wants you to become his friend. You can take an extract of what I just shared with you now as a prayer, or you can email me, or you can go on the website. There's a prayer on coming to realization of that. So I'm going to say to you, those of you dropping off, good night. Have a great weekend. And for those of you who are staying, please hang on and I'll share a bit more with you. So in closing, who am I? James Robertson. I have a doctorate in engineering and I'm a retired military commander. I now work as a management consultant. I have over 32 years' experience of actively seeking to draw close to the Almighty, following a dramatic encounter with him on the 12th of March 1993 when he spoke to me audibly in a locked room, and I knew for certain that he was real. In learning about Father, I applied my deep-seated aversion to failure born out of an accident in early childhood, coupled to my engineering and military training of rigor and preventing failure, to my seeking of knowledge about Father. This journey led to numerous supernatural experiences, prayers answered, and clear communication with the Creator. It forms the basis for what I teach in these programs. See the video Why Seek Relationship for an overview of what I believe. Please visit my website at www.endtimeissueministries.org for a whole lot of information. The ETI version of the Bible with correction of common translation errors and commentary is on the ETI Bible version page. For recordings of nearly all of the teachings broadcast so far, go to www.relationshipwithcreatorradio.com or search on Google for quote Relationship with Creator Radio unquote. Transcripts are on the Transcripts of Broadcast page. Books with teachings from 1998 till May 2019 are at the Books for Printing page. Those are PDFs that you can download with covers and take to a print shop. I publish regular email articles. Email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org to be added to the list or to seek counsel, prayer, or give me feedback. Visit the website and use the article keyword cloud, the table of contents, the article search, and the Google search to locate the information you're looking for. Folks, that's all. I'm out of time. Good night, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday. Thank you so much.
Father, I come to you, lifting up my hands. By your grace I stand, just because you love me. I know your favor.
Hi, I'm James Robertson. Have you heard it said that the Almighty will write his law in your heart? The Hebrew word is Torah, and there's a big debate as to what's meant by Torah. If you're not sure what's meant by the word Torah, the word law written in your heart, and you're a believer, then please listen to my broadcast on w4cy.com internet radio or talk4tv.com internet TV. Also visit my website at www.endtimeissueministries.org and also relationshipwithcreatorradio.com for back issues of my broadcasts. Or email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org to find out more. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.